Hey, my name's Jeremy, and my interest in this topic truly all began one day many years ago when I received a message on my Instagram from some random middle-aged man. He started by saying, "Can I ask you a question?" Now, as with all general inquiries, I replied, "Sure, what's on your mind?" But then what he said next was kind of surprising. He said, "When I die, can you take my skeleton, make it into a lamp, and give it to my wife?" Oh, what would you do? Would you block him? Would you report him? Would you kind of ignore the whole situation? Well, I replied. I did. I said, "Sure, yeah, yes. But first, I need to research how to clean human bones." See, you have to understand, my Instagram is at Catacomb Culture, and there I post images of my art being functional home decor that I make out of hyper-realistic human bone sculptures that I create. Now, here are some examples of my work, like my bone chandeliers, some of my table lamps, some of my art installations. These are my favorite pieces that I make. A food-safe skull bowl, great for eating and drinking out of, and a skull nightlight. And here's me. I travel all over the United States for various markets, expos, trade shows. But I have to say, my art series has given me a wildly unique perspective on life, death, dying, and the dead. And this conversation with Mr. Random has really thrown me down a rabbit hole full of curiosities, corruption, infinite potential, sounds of flies, and smells of decay. And I've consolidated all my findings into what I've referred to as post-life legacy. Now, what I mean by that is, how will your body continue life here on Earth? What's your life force, or whatever you want to call it, once it leaves your body? In conjunction with this topic, I've also developed a website, restinggrounds.org. There, it allows visitors to explore body donation programs near them throughout the United States, as well as post-life options and much more. I even have a web show. This is truly our final metamorphosis in this life. So what's going to happen to your body when you die? Probably a traditional burial, as we see here, or even a cremation. But are those truly our only options? In this video, we'll be exploring my 3 paths to post-life legacy. Path number 1 is body donation. This is literally saving lives and advancing all the sciences. Path number 2 is artistic embodiment. This is general anatomical studies for the public. And path number 3, nature burial. This is the most environmentally friendly way to decay. But first, we need to understand that unless we have some sort of contagious disease within us, or we're trying to do something special, we don't need most of what's here in a traditional burial. Now, no disrespect, but we don't need a funeral director, except in a couple situations. We don't need embalming fluid. Embalming fluid is a man-made, toxic, carcinogenic chemical. It's used primarily to enhance the skin tone and delay the decay. We do not need a casket, and we do not need a burial vault. A burial vault is a concrete structure that the casket goes inside of. It also prevents the ground from settling all uneven, which would create a challenge for the person cutting the grass. And we also do not need a polished monument. Essentially, all we need is the deceased and a cemetery. Now, the thing about funeral directors, like I briefly mentioned, they are required in these 9 states. What happened there? Maybe it has something to do with the funeral industry being valued at $17 billion. I'd say that has some influence. And in addition to that, the cemetery industry is worth $5 billion. So to help visualize the tremendous waste of these industries, let's take this 20,000 gallon swimming pool. Let's replace the water with embalming fluid, and now times that one pool by 260. And that is the annual amount of embalming fluid used throughout the United States. Again, this is a toxic chemical that we are putting into our grounds. Now, take all the concrete from the burial vaults and lay it out, we could build a brand new highway from Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I'm at, straight to Chicago. That's 700 miles. That's an 11-hour drive. Each year we could do this. We could build a brand new freeway somewhere new. And also with the extra, hey, we could even probably fill in some of these potholes around town. Now, let's take all the metal from all the caskets. We could make a second Golden Gate Bridge each year. Do you see what I'm talking about? Literally doing anything else with these resources would be beneficial. Instead, we're using them as one-time expenditures and dumping them into the ground. We could be building better infrastructure. We could be building new bridges, highways, schools, anything. But what's it all for? Why? Why are we putting it into the ground? For us to visit grave sites? How often do you visit a grave site? Do you know where your great-grandmother is buried? Will future generations visit cemeteries? Who will visit your grave? Listen, don't think too hard on that. Moving along. Let's consider cremation now. Now, although it doesn't directly pollute the ground, it does directly pollute the air. Now, I won't be talking about the toxins released from a burning body, but I will be covering the emissions used to burn a body. The emissions are equivalent to over a 500-mile road trip. Now, for me, that's like a round trip to Old McDonald's body farm outside Pittsburgh from here in Scranton, just to observe some rotting corpses in a field. These are the average prices for death care throughout the United States. A funeral is about $8,000. Cremation is $6,000. Nature burial, $2,000. Body donation is $0,000. They're free. Now, to some that's a lot, to some that's not too much, but personally, I believe death should be free. Now, back to my 3 paths of post-life legacy. Let's dive into path number 1, body donation. I slice this topic into 2 parts. Part 1 is organ donation, literally saving lives, and part 2 is full body donation, advancing all the sciences. Now again, I can't stress this enough. Organ donation literally saves lives, and these are the most coveted organs within each of us. Now, best case scenario, you can save 8 people's lives and enhance 40 people's lives. But it's a sad reality. I don't want to tell you this. It's a sad reality that 15 people die each day for lack of donors, but yet throughout the United States, each day 153,000 people die of various causes. But there's not enough organ donors. People in society would rather pump their organs full of toxins or burn them up instead of donating to those in need. Like, imagine if it was your child. Imagine if it was your loved one. Or imagine if it was you on that list. I'm an organ donor. Are you an organ donor? Part 2, full body donation. This one to me is probably the most exciting as it has infinite potential. One deceased can host several projects at one time. Now, generally the way it works is while you're alive, you could sign up, you could find a body donation program near you, typically a medical college, sign up, and then just live your life. When that one day comes where you pass away, your loved one may contact the college or institution, then they would come for free, pick you up, take you, do their research, and again, in many cases, they may even return cremated remains of your body back to your loved ones when they're finished. Some projects range from new surgical techniques to medical device development, student training and education, safety testing of new products, forensic and law enforcement training. The list really goes on and on. It's limited by human creativity. And with the internet, ideas travel and grow exponentially. One researcher's findings can potentially change an industry just overnight. And for us vegans and animal lovers, we would no longer need most animal testing. So the reality of body donation is it's free, no death debt, and shouldn't death be free to begin with? It helps forensic teams, catch the bad guys. Helps medicine as it saves lives and allows for faster recovery. Safety improvements, gives us better airbags, bulletproof vests, all kinds of helmets and safety gear. Helps replace animal testing, so less animal sacrifices by corporations, as well as many, many more benefits to full body donation. Now, path number 2, artistic embodiment. This is general anatomical studies for the public. And I break this up into 3 parts. There's plastination, there's skeletal articulation, and general bone arts. Plastination is when a technician poses a body, replaces all the water in the body with plastics. Now, this permanently stiffens and preserves the body into that pose. You can find various examples of this in museums throughout the world. Skeletal articulation. This is when a human corpse is professionally cleaned and sterilized, and then the bones are taken and reassembled into the true human form. Primarily with hardware and wires to make sure everything is just in the perfect place. These are commonly found in medical schools throughout the United States. And general bone art. So in the 19th century, a church in the Czech Republic hired a local artist to figure out what to do with all the extra bones they had. They had a lot of bones. So what the artist did was he started articulating the bones in fun and fascinating ways, I gotta tell you. As we see here, this is a representation of a house seal, as well as a tremendously large human bone chandelier. This bone church is definitely on my bucket list of places to visit, as well as it's been a huge inspiration for me in my art. Path number 3, nature burial. This is the most environmentally friendly and natural way to decay. So if you're not really into the idea of being a skeleton celebrity, nature burial is the way to go. It has a few different names with slight variations of it, also known as a nature burial, natural burial, green burial, eco burial, on and on. In these burials, it's very important that there is no embalming fluid, no concrete vaults, no polished headstones, only biodegradable burial containers. Sometimes the graves are even hand dug, either by the staff or the families themselves. It's also ultra low cost, it conserves natural resources, and it's a simple way to return back to the earth. Now, like I said, because there's no burial vaults, it's very difficult to landscape and cut the grass. So these cemeteries feel a lot less like locker rooms and more like woodland walks. Now again, these are my 3 paths to post-life legacy. Path number 1 is body donation. This literally saves lives and advances the sciences. Path number 2, artistic embodiment. It's general anatomical studies for the public. And path number 3 is nature burial, the most environmentally friendly way to decay. Now, regardless of whichever path you decide, it's incredibly important that you talk to your loved ones about your decision. If it's too difficult to talk to them directly, perhaps write them a letter, make them a little video with your phone, or just get creative with it. It's important that we become a little bit more conscious, at least in the back of our head, of every moment we spend with one another. I guarantee we've all lost someone we loved, and their headstones will never replace their faces in our memories. Death should be free and beneficial to living. Now, finally, I ask you, when your life force exits your body and your body remains here, would you have decided to burden the living, or will you have decided to save the living? One more thing. Mr. Anonymous, if you're watching this video, check your inbox. Thank you for watching, and memento mori.